What's up, y'all? Welcome back to another episode of Out of the Park Baseball 26, where we are attempting to rebuild the Pittsburgh Pirates. Last we left off, we had completed the first month of 2027, and we sit here on May 1st with a team record of 13-14, placing us squarely, in the middle of our kind of non-competitive division here. Everyone's sort of floating around 500, and within striking distance of a wild card, but we're not going to look too far ahead. The team is playing pretty well through the first month of the year. We've got several hot hitters here in the middle of the lineup, Brian Reynolds especially, along with O'Neal Cruz and Henry Davis. So we're a lot better off than we were to start last year. So we're pretty happy with that. But the plan for today's video is going to be to take us through the remainder of the first half. We're going to go all the way through May and June as well, and we're going to end at July, hopefully with a nice teaser leading up to the first-year player draft, and we can kind of think about who we're going to take there. But there's a lot to look forward to. We have the scouting combine here in early June, but we'll touch on the prospects a bit later. We have a ton of baseball in front of us to play, and I'm hopeful the team is going to do pretty well. But before we get started, I just wanted to say thanks for continuing to return to these videos. I definitely appreciate it. I think we're almost 2 weeks into the series at this point. I'm really happy with how we've settled into the videos, and I think they've gotten a lot better. And I, just appreciate you returning to keep checking in on the team. Any likes or comments you could throw my way would be greatly appreciated, but of course, no pressure. I'm just happy to, see the series grow, and I think I've gotten better at making these as we've gone along. So, I just wanted to say thanks for watching and sticking with me, even though sometimes I get a little hung up in the stats, and those can go, those parts of the video can go pretty long. I definitely appreciate your patience, and I hope you enjoy watching. So, let's get into it. I have some news some moves I've made in between videos. The first, we'll go into some roster stuff. The first of which, in our lineup, we sent down Jack Brannigan, who you'll remember was our backup up the middle infielder guy, and we brought back Sung-Che. Even though he is a lefty, he was just going off at AAA. Had almost a 1,000 OPS down there in just the first month. So, he's a similar defender to Brannigan. I don't think we're losing too much there. And, Brannigan's bat was just not hitting. Sung-Che can hit left on left, even though, we are lefty heavy. It's not a total disaster left on left. He actually taps into a little bit more gap power there. So I think this is an upgrade for us, or at least I'm hoping it will be. Brannigan never quite got it going at the major league level. And as this is Sung-Che's last option year, we kind of need to use him. So that was the move. We're also keeping a close watch on Bubba, you guys. I don't think I'm going to allow him to make another start, if I'm being honest. I think I'm going to make some changes before we get moving here, because I'm looking at his ratings, and guys, he's really not having much success at all. I think he needs to go back to AAA to sort of rediscover his stuff. And movement, because if you look at his ratings at AAA, we see a lot more growth potential. His pitches are way better. I think he's just going to put up really strong stats down there, and come back stronger than ever. I think he just needs a little bit of a reset. So I'm going to work that out off camera. If I had to give a rough idea of what I think we'll do, I think we'll go Burrows into the I've already moved him to a starter, and I think Burrows is going to move into Bubba's role, because you look at the ratings and it's just a little bit more. It's a little bit, Bubba's 45 across the board. Here we're getting 50s, and the BABIP at 55 I think is really going to carry Burrows to success. So I kind of want to give him a shot at starter. The stamina and hold runners is there, so why not? I think Bubba has really sort of lost his way, unfortunately, and I think he needs to be sent down. So we're going to make that swap, I think, once I go off camera, and we'll call up another reliever. But before I let you go and we get into the games, I did want to highlight one injury we've seen. Hunter Barco at AAA unfortunately blew out the arm So, we had penciled him in as sort of a backup lefty specialist for us with, potential to start, although his splits are pretty dramatic being a side armor. But he will be a non-factor for us for the remainder of the year, so we've transferred him to the 60-day, and that opens up a new 40-man slot where we can probably purchase someone's contract, to bring up to fill the Bubba absence. So, no other big injuries here. Nate Snead is nearing a return, just 1 week away. So look forward to pushing him this year. But if we look at the calendar ahead, we're finishing up a road set at Colorado, and then we start a homestand, Milwaukee and San Diego, and then we go back on the road against St. Louis. So I think I'm going to try to move through this pretty quick because we got quite the agenda, two full months plus the scouting combine. So I'm going to probably check back in here on the 13th and let you guys know how things have developed. So, fingers crossed we can continue our momentum and, be a contender in the Central this year. But, stay tuned. I'll be back in a sec. Okay, y'all, we are back here. And on the whole, the month hasn't gone too terribly. We're sitting at 6-5, still 19-19. Now third in the division, but we took 2 on the road in Colorado, and then 2 of 3 against Milwaukee, losing the final game in extras. But then we sort of slid against San Diego, got swept there, but bounced back to take 2 of 3 against the Cardinals. So, we're keeping our good momentum going to a degree. We're still like middle of the pack, but, not much separation here in the division. And then we're squarely in wild card contention as well. As far as updates, we did end up making the pitching swap, so Burrows is now our guy moving forward here. He's had 2 starts up until this point, one of them really good, 60-game score, the other really bad. Got touched up for 6 runs, 19-game score there. So I do think it's going to be, better for us in the long run. He's just so much further along than Bubba was, and we needed a reset, but the corresponding move was to actually call up this guy who we've never really spoke about before, but Yoldin De La Paz. He's a lefty reliever, just 25. He's a former IFA signing in 2019 by the Pirates, and I really like the control and, upside of him. Like, so far he's only appeared in 2 games, but he's been pretty lights out. And as a lefty, I like that he has good balance against both sides of the plate here. So he's not, boxed into just being a lefty specialist. He can play both sides. So felt like this was interesting. So we ended up, purchasing his contract. So this is his first taste of the majors. I didn't really like anyone else that we had at the AAA level to come up and fill this role, and it kind of gives us some more lefties to work with here in the bullpen. As far as like guys who have been bad, O'Donnell is really kind of struggling. He's blown several games. I think he has like a bit of a homer problem, which is frustrating because we think that's like, his key attribute where he could tap into more movement. So he's still kind of figuring it out. I wish I could like avoid high leverage here, but it is what it is. I think he'll, we're going to continue to give him some run. As far as Bubba down in AAA, we can look at his couple, he's made 2 starts, I believe. Both of them here. Decent, 61 and 43, but I like that he's striking guys out. In his most recent one, 8 Ks only to 1 walk, although he did get hit up a bit. So he's still kind of settling in, I guess. It's good. I've noticed that he like his expectation has dropped, so he's not even expecting to play in the majors at this point. He's pretty self-aware that his numbers are not up to par. So again, we're hoping he rediscovers the movement and can work on maybe some of these other pitches to bring those up as well. So hoping for strong performance there. Otherwise, most of the minor leagues have kicked off at this point. Rookie ball just started, so our guy Alex Harrington down here, will be keeping close eyes on him. Just I think 1 or 2 games so far, or 3 games so far. So Alex Harrington, Quentin Young, and Kettleson, Stevens. There are a couple guys here that we're closely monitoring, but That's sort of the state of the team. I did want to float an idea by you guys that maybe you can think on and leave me some feedback in the comments. But, we had talked about a Jared Jones extension at some point in the last video, and we haven't executed on that yet. But, should we want to sign him to like a 6-year deal? It's pretty reasonable. He's only looking for 17 and a half, like in his free agency years. And then, we've gone over this a ton, but Paul Skeens is looking for like a monstrous $50 million a year deal, which we're not going to be able to afford. So I guess I wanted to get your opinion on like, what teams make sense to be a Paul Skeens buyer. You have to like place yourself in Paul Skeens and I guess Livy's shoes, if you will, and like, from their end, they probably have a list of teams that they're willing to go to, and us as the Pirates, being the good owner and GM we're willing to listen to that list. So, think about like bigger market teams who can afford him. I think ideally we're shipping him somewhere with the like intention of like hopefully they can re-sign him. So, ideally, obviously, I would want to get him out of the NL entirely, and I'm definitely not trading him anywhere in division. So all of those are off the table. If I were to, give my opinion, the Yankees I think would make sense, along with the Blue Jays. They're always looking to buy because they can't sign free agents. So, I'll sort of do some background work also depending on your feedback. If you, give me some teams, I'll kind of see who their prospects are, and maybe we can work on a deal kind of in the shadows as this season progresses. But anyway, I would say the Yankees and the Blue Jays possibly. I don't know that anyone in the Central is a real contender. I mean, possibly Detroit, but they also just signed Skubal to a $50 million deal. I don't know that they would do 2 pitchers on a $50 million deal. And in the West, I think there are a couple teams. I think Texas could be in the market for sure. And then I think even the Angels, it would be crazy of them, but they're not a poor franchise. They're not a poverty franchise. They can spend the money. And Houston as well. I think like any of those 3, I don't really think Seattle or obviously Vegas would do much. So let me know your thoughts on, maybe AL landing spots. I guess if we did move him in the NL, I would do my best to avoid trading him to the Dodgers just out of principle. But I think the Giants could be low-key buyers. Like, they're trying to turn it around. I think they would be willing to spend big on Paul. And then, maybe the Padres, although I'm not sure. I think I would more favor the Giants. And then, honestly, I could see the Phillies as well. And, of course, the Mets, I guess. But both of these teams, I think, could throw their hat in the ring as well. So if you feel strongly about any of those teams, let me know. Paul Skeens is, of course, from California, Lake Forest, CA there. So, consider where he might want to go, and we'll kind of start investigating trades. But anyway, let's keep pushing through here. I don't think too much has happened in the meantime as far as like on-field performance. Like, we're still doing okay. I'm fine to just continue through to the end of the month, and if anything breaking news, major comes up, I'll jump in before then. But I think we're going to continue on. So we got New York, Miami, Philly, and then some divisional games here to wrap. But if you wanted to look at the lineup and who's hitting, this is like on the year. We got Cruz at the top, OPSing 925, only striking out less, like sub 20% strikeout rate for O'Neill is huge. And then Jacob Melton is still, like, he's rediscovered his, like, he's crushing the baseball still, hitting over 300. So, weird to see Cabryan here, although he's just in a platoon, like, lefty against lefty kind of role. And then we're really struggling at catcher, you guys, both the guys down here. I did make a swap just to throw Leo Bernal as the full-time catcher to see if that, like, inspired any sort of performance, because Endy was just playing so terribly. We'll see what Leo can give us, but I may, continue to flip that back and forth as we progress. Final thing I'm looking for here before we go, I'm looking for our infielders to pick it up. Termar is only hitting 167. Granted, he's got 6 homers, but he's just not making that much contact with the ball. And then Nick Gonzalez, we're still waiting for him to wake up. Only OPSing 630, but let me keep going here. We'll hope for no injuries, and we'll hope we can continue our good play. But I'll check back with you at the end of May, and we can kind of look at the whole month as a whole. All right, y'all. We've made it through the entirety of May, and we have really turned it on down the stretch. I mean, just look at the back half of this calendar. I think last we left off, we ended up taking 2 of 3 against New York, and then we got swept by the Marlins on the road in Florida. But then after dropping the first to Philly, we rattled off a huge win streak to end the month 31-24, good enough for first in the NL Central. That brings our record to 18-10 on the month, which is 3 above expectation. So we are cruising here, all thanks to my brilliant lineup card management and bullpen role setting. We have a 1.5 game lead on St. Louis currently, and we are 10-0 in our last 10. So that's awesome to see. As far as like top performers during this time, I mean, I don't know that anyone is hotter than Termarr Johnson, who we bumped up a bit. We ended up flipping Mullins down and bringing Johnson up just a bit, and he's really turned it on in May. If we go to our splits here and just go, batting stats accrued within May, he was our top hitter, along with Cruz, Davis, and Reynolds is more close to average. But really, those 3 guys carried us on the month. So like homer leaders, Reynolds still has 12 somehow, which seems really crazy to me. RBI leaders again, Reynolds, but Davis is hanging right there. So the DH experiment's working. Guys who are not doing so hot. We can't seem to find a backup middle infielder. Sung Che. I'm still not quite sure what the correct pronunciation is, but -5 WRC plus. I think we're going to have to go back down to the AAA well and look for another infielder. And oddly enough, Jack Brannigan has been kind of mashing down there, like to a degree. 800 OPS in his 25 games back down there. So that could be an option. I don't think Vivas can play shortstop, which is kind of the hang up there. He's just kind of off the table. And the other option would be Mitch Jebb, who is a 50 WRC plus player, and just not someone I'm really interested in having at the majors. So, we'll figure out if Brannigan comes up or, whatever off camera. There was one injury during this time. Braxton Ashcraft had mild shoulder inflammation that'll keep him out for, another 11 days or so. We just threw him on the 15-day. He's been okay, just fine, FIP is a little elevated. The walks are creeping up, so he's really kind of lost his command, which was once a 70 grade for us. So keeping tabs on him. I will say though, hitters are only hitting 190 against him, which is pretty decent. So it's likely once he comes back, he'll just slot right back into the bullpen. But we did make some bullpen changes just recently. So Mike Walsh was the call up. Sort of in response to the Ashcraft injury, and he has yet to pitch. The Ashcraft injury just happened toward the end of the month, but in a brief 16 game sample at AAA this year, he was the closer. He shut down 11 games and only blew 2, so sub 3 ERA. All these stats were pretty good. I felt comfortable bringing him up as just a low leverage middle reliever, and you like that he's a little bit competent both sides. Hopefully he's not around long, but he's just sort of the Band-Aid fix. And then our guy O'Donnell Mosqueda, who has been relegated back to AAA here. Just based off of 18 games at the majors this year, his FIP was 7.2 for a 180 FIP minus, which is just horrendous, horrendously bad, close to 3 homers per 9. And he blew sort of these last 2 games, and I just decided I was done with it for the time being. So we're rocking with him back down in AAA. And it looks like he'll get the chance to close games there. And we brought up Jaden Woods, who was actually starting some games at AAA, 10 starts, but I just kind of liked his vibe, positive ERA, positive FIP there, not giving up the homer. And we think he plays as a lefty specialist, with a bunch of stuff upside should he tap into that. So kind of the quest for the lefty specialist is still ongoing. We'll see if Jaden Woods wants to take the role or not. But I've been super happy with the call-up of De La Paz. Sub 1 ERA, 1.1 whip is like incredible through 5 games. So he's been crushing it, and it's easy to see why with these ratings. We just weren't really aware of his game. Shaq to Christian Wood or whatever. Sorry, young fella, I wasn't familiar with your game, but we're glad to have him here. We also bumped Matt Brash to closer and Abreu to setup. I just felt like Abreu was blowing too many games, and if we, he had 5 meltdowns, and I just wasn't comfortable with that. His left on base percentage is only 63, so I wanted to hire, just kind of lockdown guy, and Matt Brash is leading us in strikeouts, and he actually, in the latest scouting report, gained a tick of velocity, so he's our hardest throwing reliever now, and he has the most stamina as well. He has 10 whole points more stamina than Abreu, so he's going to be, fresher more often. So maybe not how we anticipated things going, but so far he's been really good since taking on the role. No blown saves, so hopefully that continues. I think that's it for the most part. Burrows has also been like really good lately, 68, 56, 59, 3 straight above average game scores there, and he's just been super steady, which is all we can ask for sort of our 4 and 5 guys. As far as like negative WAR players go, I guess he's still like creeping back a little bit towards positive WAR. That may have been from his early bullpen work, but Oviedo has sort of regressed a bit, but on the whole, all of our pitchers are doing really well, and Skeens is doing well again this year, although the ERA is a little bit inflated. The FIP's looking good. He's not giving up the homer like he was last year. We're just waiting on those strikeouts to get back closer to 10. So overall, super great month. Obviously, we'll see if we can continue the success into June. But another thing that happened, we were dealing with like a shortage of pitchers at AAA, with like Anthony Solomito is now dealing with more like rotator cuff stuff, and then we lose another reliever here in Tompkins, and I'm just now seeing Yordani with a fractured shoulder there, so that's tough for him. But anyway, between like losing Barco and Solomito, Tompkins, Ashcroft, there was a shortage of pitchers at AAA, so we actually went to the free agency market, and I ended up finding someone who is pretty good. Where are we looking? Tyson Neighbors, who was somehow let go. He's a 4th round pick in the 2024 draft by the Padres, and they kind of, tried to turn him into a starter. And eventually released him. So we pounced on the opportunity to bring in the 24-year-old, even though he is fragile. He's been through his, just one injury on the history there. But we think, the stuff potential could be outstanding. And so we're going to force start him in a bullpen role at AAA and see how he does. Maybe, it's not totally impossible that he would feature for us down the road should the control come along. But I guess we'll just see how that turns out. I was just excited to kind of find him, and we made some other minor league signings as well, but nothing too big to update on. So next we have the scouting combine coming up, I think on the 7th, if we double check. Yeah, the 7th. So we'll use that opportunity to check back in. I may let it run a couple of days and even like come back to you on the 10th here, and we can kind of review all the prospects that I put in there. I think we're going to put in a lot fewer prospects this year compared to last. So stay tuned for that. I'll be back in a week of game time to give you guys the news. Okay, y'all, we're back. As you can see, June is sort of off to like a so-so start for us. I think we're 3-5. We ended up dropping 2, so we lose the series on the road against the Dodgers, and same lose the series here at San Diego. But we come back, take the series against Houston at home, and it is the final day of the first-year player combine. So I want to show you what we've learned there. But before that, I did want to just kind of acknowledge something. I was looking at the standings and I saw O'Neal Cruz in all of these leading categories. He's leading the league in freaking average, hitting 345. I think we need to acknowledge the season he's pacing for, 1,000 OPS, 178 WRC+, 2.8 WAR in 47 games. So like projected out, like his stat line, the homers aren't quite there. He's projected to hit 18, but like the slash lines are insane, and projected for a 7.2 WAR. Like this, I'm cautiously optimistic, but this contract is looking like it might be a pretty good deal for us. So I just felt like that was worth acknowledging, but not too much has changed in terms of the team since then. Let's look at what we learned from the combine. And we've got, I think I've learned sort of more what this is about. We've got fewer guys in here this year, and we're up to very high scouting accuracy on a number of them. So these 2 guys, Seward and Norton, I kind of added late in the process, and we didn't get up to very high with them, but the other guys were very high on. So if we just filter this for players who we know are to be very high, like all the guys show up here, and you can see there's a clear choice, number 1. And it's our guy Dan Beebe. We knew the 21-year-old right-hander out of Oklahoma was going to be really developed. He's near 22 years old, but I don't mind. Like, look at how insane he looks, you guys. This is like Paul Skeens 2.0 right here. And, I think he's going to be the first pick. It's like, signed, sealed, and delivered. Like, everyone knows. Because, like, how can you pass up a college player who is already 45 overall with an 80 grade potential? I don't think you can. So I don't think there's going to be much drama to the draft this year, but we went ahead and scouted some other guys as well. Like Dorian Wood would like normally be like a slam dunk pick. The lefty, he's a full year younger and has like just as good of upside. You don't think the slider will ever be there, but like he's equally as insane. The other part that puts BB like above everyone else, though, is this personality. Like, he is just a flawless prospect. So, we kept looking at other guys here who, may have good potential. Maybe it's also helped. One of the tools I sort of used was the OSA mock draft here, and it shows visually like all the players I've scouted to sort of, get a good read on them. If I had to pick one high schooler who I think is insane, I think Kyle Johnston is pretty good. Just like a corner power bat, like he ought to be awesome. But obviously he's not going to be there for us. Dan Beebe's not projected to go until 10th. There is one other guy here too who did not attend the combine that I thought was interesting. Jonathan Hines from Long Beach. Also starting out at a 35 and can throw, upwards of 100. He's more of a righty though, but I also love his profile. So like, were he to slip to the second round, it's not totally unreasonable that we would go double pitcher. So that would be something really insane. But I did scout a couple of guys in the second round here who we view highly, I guess. Scott Boyd is a high schooler who is already starting out at 30 overall, so I felt like that was notable. Plus his personality is, amazing. But I don't mind to go high school arm in the second round. It's just I get weary of them at the top of the draft, but I'm willing to be a little bit more risky in the second round, so he could be interesting. Other guys we looked at, Blake Lane is the college outfielder, but he's playing from Canada, so it's a poor competition level, but we still think the bat is like pretty far along, and I wouldn't mind having him with this defense. I think he could be like sort of fast-tracked should all of this pan out, but I like him. He feels like a little bit safer despite the competition level, like I said. And then Devin Tucker as well is a switch hitter, shortstop, but he's kind of got like a Ronnie Simon profile going right now where he's not the best defender, but a durable shortstop from like USC with a great competition level. Like, I don't know. It might be interesting to look at him as well. So, I think that's where we'll leave it for now. I don't really want to go into too much more detail with these other guys just because, I don't really care. We're going to take freaking Dan Beebe, our guy. So the 5'10", 175 righty from Oklahoma will almost certainly be the number one pick. And we'll have to, figure out the rest from there. I don't think he's going to command a significant bonus demand. Those haven't really been revealed yet, but when I remember looking at him when the draft pool was revealed, the demand said $8 million, so maybe he won't be all that expensive for us. We'll just have to see, but that was a quick check-in. I don't think anyone else... Burrows has been heating up too, so he's really turned it on. His ERA is under 3, so that's looking really good. And finally, Nick Gonzalez has woken up as well. But next up for our Buccos, we got Ashcraft coming back in one day, so we'll kick Mike Walsh out, although he has been decent. We'll kick him to the curb, bring back Ashcraft, and then keep pushing along. Next time you hear from me will probably be on the 21st. I'm hoping we can kind of right the ship here and we don't lose our groove here in June. We'll hopefully keep the good momentum going, but stay tuned. Okay, guys, we are back. It is a new day of recording for me, so hopefully I have a little bit more energy than I did in the last clip. But as you can see, we've made our way to the 21st of June here, and pretty just run-of-the-mill month. We have the bottom hasn't fallen out. We're 9-9 as we sit here toward the end of the month, and we're looking good across most of our major categories. Apart from like the thing I'm sort of keeping tabs on is like our starter ERA. Some of the guys have really started to kind of struggle as of late, but we've maintained our standing. We're still 2.5 up on Milwaukee, and looking good in the Central. So like the hot hitting has continued for O'Neal Cruz and Jared Jones and Paul Skeens. They've been holding it down. It's really just the back of our rotation with Harrington and Burrows and Keller, who are sort of struggling a bit more. One thing we swapped over the last bit of game time, we moved Endy back to full-time catcher now. He's heating up in a big way in June. He's one of our hottest hitters on the month. So otherwise, not too much movement in the lineup. Kind of just rolling as we have been. We bumped Termar down. He's kind of struggled a bit, even though he has 10 homers, which is good. But we're going to keep moving here and close out the month. And then I think once we get here, we can kind of look at, how the major league, numbers are looking for the month. And then I also I like to do my prospect kind of reorganization around the 1st of July. So, when we next check in, maybe I'll go over some guys who I've decided to promote up to higher levels, and we can talk about them. But we'll be at the draft shortly. It won't be too much longer, and I'm excited to, of course, add a new star pitcher to our org. But let's get through the rest of this month first, and then we'll talk about all that later. All right, y'all, we have made it to the end of June and really the mid-season mark, not quite to the All-Star break yet, but as you can see, we ended up dropping 2 of the series here, one against Cleveland and the other against Cincinnati, both on the road, but we did sweep the Rangers at home, so We're still maintaining our first place in the Central, but just a 14-13 month for us there, just a bit over 500. So it's really going to be tight down the stretch. We're only 1.5 up on both Milwaukee and St. Louis. So, we're going to be sweating it, I think, until the end. And, should we drop out of first place in the Central, there's no guarantee we would make a wild card either, because obviously, you have teams like the Braves, and it looks like the Rockies are playing well this year, the Diamondbacks as well. Like, it's going to be just a photo finish till the end. But I think the team is playing well. A couple pieces of mail to review. We got our mid-season goals here. He's happy with our record. Not happy that we haven't signed Paul Skeens, and he's good with the attendance, so that's good. And fan interest, we're still trying to improve there. Road games, apparently we have not improved. So, bit of a mixed bag. Some of our contracts are expiring. We definitely want to bring back Butler, so we re-signed him to a deal as our bench coach. We just like everything about him. And a new prospect list dropped. So a lot of movement here. Danny Jimenez is still hanging out in the complex. We'll actually get a new scouting report on him, but he's maintained his rank as the number one prospect in baseball. And when I view his ratings compared to the DSL, I just think he's just a bit off. I would like to see some more 45s and 50s here before we push him there. So we're going to keep him in the complex just a bit longer, but he's got a firm hold on number one. And then Connor Griffin actually dropped down to number 9 for us. So he's having a good year at high A this year, definitely hitting for more average, which is what we wanted to see. But on the whole, his WRC plus isn't, tremendously above league average. But as far as other guys, the overall sort of system has fallen a bit. We're now 3rd in the, MLB ranks, but we have a lot more volume of players that are now being recognized in the top 200. So Wyatt Sanford cracked the top 100. We now have 5 in the top 100 and 3 in the top 50. So Sanford gets in there. He's dealing with some back soreness at the moment, so it's kind of uncertain as to when he'll return. But in 47 games at AA, he's been amazing. So whenever he does come back, I would like to give him some AAA at-bats. Other than him, though, there's a lot of guys here cracking the top 200. As you can see, we have, a good share of that 100 to 200 range in our system. And a lot of these guys we've touched on briefly, but Victor Nevares, I actually did end up promoting to the DSL. You'll remember him as the IFA signing that we brought in tandem with Danny Jimenez. We paid $7.6 million to get Victor Nevares on our team. So MJ, I felt, was a little further along. He is a bit older than Danny. So I looked at these ratings, and while the hit tool is only graded out of 40, I felt like the power and the eye could, boost him to success along with the personality, and we just decided to aggressively push him. I don't know, I was feeling bold. So but it seems to have paid off so far, because he's an above average league hitter with a 114 WRC plus through the first 20 games of the Dominican League. And we started the clock on him, so now we have, I think, 6 years or whatever before he's Rule 5 eligible. But hopefully he comes along quickly for us. I'm excited to see how he sort of develops as we move on. We may look to transition him. He's currently listed at center, but I don't know that he's playing that. We probably look to move him to a corner long term. But wanted to give an update that he is now playing. And the other news here, O'Neal Cruz was recognized as the batter of the month in the NL. So, he's still maintaining that over 300 batting average, and the extra base hits are really piling up for him. So he's had a great year for us. And final bit of news is Nick Gonzalez is now our fragile king. Nick Gonzalez is dealing with sort of an extended strained ribcage muscle injury that is going to be kind of a 3-week thing for him. So it's only minimal impact on both, but given he's extremely popular and like one of our better hitters who's really come along in the month of June, if we look at his monthly splits, he's OPSing 950, or he OPS'd 950 in June. So he really started to come along. The injury history with him is getting crazy. Like, it's just too much, and I think we'll likely obviously bring him back next year. He's going to want definitely a big pay raise up to $4.5 million, but I don't think he's someone I would look to sign long term, being as fragile as he appears to be. So, but all that fingers crossed he can stay healthy for the next couple of weeks. As far as I had alluded to making some prospect promotions. I'm going to hold out just a bit longer because I was looking at sort of the schedules for each team, and I think it makes more sense that there's like a big window of time for a couple of the leagues here. Like I'm eyeing this July 6th, July 7th date for promotion. So like AA will go through there, break there. Same for high A. I think it's a good time to move guys around when like the calendar is pretty open here in July, and A ball as well. So I'm just gonna wait a little bit longer. I'll update you guys as we get closer to the draft. I think I think it's on the 11th this year. Yes, so July 11th. We may just go ahead and simulate up into the draft. I think I'll look to make those promotions off camera, and then next time I check in, we'll go over any notable names who've been moved up, and then take a look at how we're looking for the draft. But overall, the team is doing well. I'm, cautiously optimistic we can keep this good momentum going. Hopefully you feel the same, but I'll be back in a second. We can look over, who we're staring down with our number one pick. All right, y'all, we have made it to the first year player draft, and we are ready to conclude the episode. But before we get to that, July, we have the bottom has fallen out. As you can see, we've only won one game this month, and we are 1-7. Now second in the division. Just as we start to slide, we're 1-9 over our last 10. St. Louis has surged. They are 8-2, so there's now a 4-game differential between us, and we're kind of on the outside looking in of a wild card. So that's how quickly the season can change. Just a week and a half of poor play has maybe changed our outlook on the back half of the year. But I just think it's mostly due to offense. Like our bats are just not hitting. If we go to stats accrued in July, we only have a couple of guys over average. Indy and Brian Reynolds, who are I've considered moving them higher in the lineup, but I don't want to bench Cruz and Dave. I don't want to move those guys down. It's I don't really know what to do here. I think we just have to kind of weather the storm. In the next episode, we'll kind of see how if we can turn things around or not. But I did want to touch on a few prospect promotions I made across the org before we take a look at the draft and leave the episode there. The rookie ball season has officially wrapped, earlier in the month on the 7th. So we pushed pretty much the entire roster. It's pretty barren right now. We pushed guys up to higher levels, and that kind of cascaded up. So players that we pushed to A-ball, Brock Kettleson, Alex Harrington, and Quentin Young all got pushed there. They've only got a couple of games under their belts, but it looks like Harrington's already homered, and so is Quentin Young. So Nolan Stevens as well, we promoted there. He's our 8th round pick in last year's draft. So we'll see if these guys can make any waves at the A-ball level. I just wanted to get them more at-bats. They're not necessarily, ready for A-ball. Harrington is only a 35, but we're just hoping the defense carries him and he can put the bat on the ball occasionally. I just didn't want him sitting in rookie ball, not getting any run. So we've made those. If you're wondering about Quentin Young, his season at rookie ball was much better this year. hit 280, OPS to 850, above average or above replacement level player. So we think he's ready to take on the Florida League now. Ought to be pretty decent, 45s and 50 in a couple categories there. So hopefully our first pick in the series can turn it around now that he's kind of, grown a bit older and settled in. Guys that we pushed to high A, Camden Koziel is the big one. He was our 4th-round pick in last year's draft, and he was, crushing it at A-ball earlier this year, OPSing 934 with a 135 WRC+. So we think he ought to be able to succeed at high A for the remainder of the season here. Just a solid lefty infield bat that we profile as just a contact first kind of guy. But we'll see what he can do. The other one here who's maybe notable, I would say Edward Lantigua, who we received from the Mets in exchange for David Bednar back in the day. But he's really also come along quickly. He only played 23 games at the A-ball level this year, but he OPS 1250 and had a 208 WRC+, so definitely felt like he could handle high A, and the ratings reflect that as well. So at just nearly 21, Edward Lantigua could come along for us pretty quickly. We're going to remain hopeful there. And then a bunch of pitchers here. Cole Klecker, our 12th round pick in the first draft of 2025, just felt like he was ready for the high A level after a strong A-ball season. Same for Jacob McGovern. He was actually a pick of ours last year out of Clemson, but he did really awesome in his 13 starts at A-ball this year, and he got some work there last year as well with a 19.5 strikeout minus walk rate. Felt like good to push him. And then Levi Sterling as well, but Nate Snead is still hanging out down here. He's dealt with some more shoulder stuff where I'm just not comfortable pushing him to Double A quite yet. I kind of want to see him complete this season at high A to just be a little more safe with him. As far as guys that we pushed to Double A, there's been a number. We've got Connor Griffin up here finally, who his hit tool finally came along to a 45, so I was comfortable pushing him here. Strikeouts still might be a problem, but with the 45 contact, I'm hopeful he'll do well, and it looks like he's off to a hot start in just 3 games. So he's up. And this guy, Esther Suero, we've never really, touched on him at all, but he was mashing in high A for us, and, he's a switch-hitting outfielder who, these are ratings relative to Double A, mind you, so the ceiling at the MLB will come down, but felt like he needed to be pushed. And then our 2 draftees in our first draft, Gavin Turley, didn't really have the strongest year at high A this season, but he was hot as of late. He had a really hot June, and I just felt with the bat combined with him being almost 24, I wanted to get him up to a higher level. So looking for him to perform well for us at Double A. And same for Dean Curley, who, he's probably going to hit some homers, but everything else might be a work in progress with him. But similar story, high A, he had a 139 WRC plus and 20 homers in 73 games. So wanted to challenge him a bit with some work at Double A here, and he's going to play third base for us. So a lot of moves. Zane Petty's still hanging out, but he's heated up a little bit as of late. Well, his most recent starts were not so good, but he had a 76 game score here. He's still kind of figuring it out at the Double A level. So I don't think he'll be promoted much longer. We bumped down Tyson Neighbors. He was really struggling at Triple A with a 13 ERA. So a lot of moves across the org. The last promotion I'll mention is at the Triple A level, where we brought up Wyatt Sanford, who returned from his back injury. So he's already off to a tremendous start, 2 homers in 3 games. I think when I think about him long term, I'm like, is this the Leover Peguero replacement for us last year? Because I think he can stick it short with that 65 range and error. we may look to bring him up before the end of the season and kind of give him a trial run. But he's definitely ready for AAA at-bats, so hopefully he performs well as well. But I think we're going to wrap here. This brings us to the first-year player draft, where we can go ahead and take a look. We, of course, have the number 1 pick, and, I don't think it's going to be a huge surprise as to who we take. We're looking at Dan Beebe here, the 45 overall pitcher who just looks tremendous. I mean, we've spoken about him at length. It's feasible he could he's already an 80 grade at Double-A, you guys. He's going to move through the minors so quickly. It's going to be crazy. He may be at some point early next season, we may look to manipulate his service time to a degree, but I think he's on the major league roster by mid-June to early July. So really the, interesting parts of this draft are going to be who do we take later on in the draft. It's bizarre to see the draft pipeline not value Dan Beebe. They have him at 10. This is a tool I don't really use much, but it's kind of like the consensus scout rankings, I suppose. It's bizarre they're not seeing the same thing we're seeing, but we'll leave it here. Next episode we'll look to complete the draft. Obviously I'll do a couple of rounds on camera and then kind of recap everything I do off camera, and then we will move through the All-Star break and then kind of decide what we're going to do at the trade deadline and maybe execute on a few moves. I think I do want to be buyers this season, and I'm looking to acquire a left-handed reliever because lefty specialist is something we've really struggled with. So I'll take a look at the trade block in between recording, and that's what we can look forward to next time. But as always, I appreciate you guys watching. Any likes or comments you can throw on the video would be awesome. But I'll be back soon, and we'll tackle the draft together as well as the trade deadline. But stick around. I hope to see you in the next video. So thanks for watching.